If you are someone who struggles with motivation when you go into the gym, or it feels a little bit pointless, this is where having a goal or a competition or an event coming up can be really good. It could be a 5K park run, it could be a Tough Mudder, it could be a powerlifting competition, it could be a holiday because you may want to get fitter and look better for a holiday. But having an event or something that you're training towards keeps your training at the forefront. So this is part of the rule of 100 that I've used with clients previously, which is you have a goal for your body weight when you've got body compositional goals. You have a goal for your body weight, but you also have a goal for your training. And the reason is because when you go in to train, you need to be motivated to do it. And this is going to help you with the motivation, basically. And that's something that I'm bringing in for myself, which is I'm trying to make sure that I've always got something on the horizon. I've always been the same, need something on the horizon. And that is just because it gives me structure. And I think this is why I like little goals from a financial standpoint, from a business standpoint, is because your goals dictate your actions. So if I set myself a training goal for the ATHEX, well, the actions that I take and the training that I do will be dictated by whatever the competition is. So that ATHEX comp that we're going for in December means that my training is structured towards that. So that means that every session has a point to it. And then this is basically just to deal with the fact that I can't have anything being meaningless. Everything needs to have some level of meaning. And that's what it is for me. So that's what I would get you to think about if you find training kind of meaningless and pointless. Because I know that there's been periods of time, I'm going to have to put my glasses on. I'm going to have periods of time where training is in a lull. But if you are someone who struggles with motivation when you train, pick something to do. I've had a client and we've had a conversation about this recently because one of the things we were talking about was the fact that he struggles with not having something, and the thing that he's now training for is towards a triathlon. He's training towards an Ironman. He's picked one for next year. He did a half marathon, then he's doing a marathon for Christmas Eve, and then he's got an Ironman at the end of next year. And then there'll be events scattered throughout that. Nothing gives you motivation for training and like an event that you are training for, that you have to show up. This is something that I will always have, which is why the ATHEX event is going to be really good and why I take some time after that to review what I want to do. One of my clients is really good at this every year. What events are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And I just think that if you're someone who struggles with that motivation to keep going, just pick something and just start training towards it. And pick a random thing, because like at the start, it can be really small, which is like, oh, I want to be able to deadlift my body weight. Like that is a goal, but we put a date on it. And the reason we put a date on it is because then that gives you pressure, but good levels of pressure to show up and to train and to get the workouts done. So then when it comes to that deadlift test, you know it's important and you know that the training leading up to it is important. And I think this is something that we can all get stuck in, is the monotony and the groundhog day of da-da, 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 which is why I like something in advance. One of my clients had struggled with this for a while, and then picking the goal to try and be able to run a half marathon has meant that her training's just gone through the roof. Like, she's so much more committed. She doesn't miss a run. She enjoys training more. It's way more fun because there's an event coming up. So I just think having something like that can be a really good shout, and it can just be something minimal. It could be little challenges with the gym. I'm going to do an erg triathlon where I do a row, ski and bike, and you pick the distances and you train for that. It could be I'm going to run a 5K. It could be I'm going to bench press a certain amount of weight. Like, whatever it's going to be, but just pick something. On the similar note, one thing that has made training worse for me, or something that I have struggled with, is not having enough time between comps or between blocks. And what I mean is not having enough time for me to recover enough to then be able to push hard for the next block. We talk about deloads a lot in training, and deloads are, the reason we have a deload is because deloads mean that you don't need a deload. If you think about a service on your car, the reason you have a service on your car is so that things don't go wrong. And it's a similar thing with deloads. If you just wait for your car to go wrong and then you fix everything, you could cause a lot more damage to your car. And it's a similar thing with deloads. If you program correctly, you should have periods of time where your training load, so the weight on the bar or the amount of volume, so the number of sets that you are doing is way, way down. And that is because then your body can recover, you can recover, and then you can go again. From a mental standpoint and motivation standpoint, you also need that time away from it. Coming towards any competition is when your training is going to be the hardest, and it's when you're most likely to not want to do the competition. So anytime you're working towards a goal, The last few weeks running up to it, it's not I can't wait for the competition. It's I can't wait for this to be over. And that's because you're training super hard. You've been training for it for however long. And it's just a grind at that point. And that's absolutely fine. We all kind of go through that. But that's why I'm suggesting that everyone has some kind of goal. But then as periods of time within that or after the event, week, 2 weeks, like if you looked at old school bodybuilders, they would take like months off. If you look at athletes in the off season, they take months off. Like they'll still be training and doing bits, but they won't be training anywhere near as hard. And this is the same thing, is we need to have some time off to be able to reset and go again. Thank you so much for watching that video. That clip that you just watched is from one of our live streams. So every Sunday evening we live stream, and we're trying to create a community of people to come and help each other, improve their mental health, learn a little bit about training. I struggled with my confidence for the longest time, and in this journey of going from a PT to creating a wellbeing company, we wanted to give you a space to come and feel safe enough to talk about what you're going through. So come and join us every Sunday. My name's Charlie. This is Hack the Body, Hack the Mind. We'll see you on the next one.